Jinping plans to demolish Chinese bricks, one brick at a time. Talking about the development and growth, one cannot deny the contributions of infrastructure. This includes roads, railways, and of course the buildings. Urbanization and entrepreneurial prosperity escalated the demands of buildings. As of now, the growth of any country is roughly perceived by many as proportional to sky-high buildings. With new technologies, the structure of buildings have hence become an eye-catching phenomena. But constructing them and sustaining them are two different things, and China is suffering from this dilemma. Namaste and welcome to TFIPost. I'm your host Vedika. Let's begin. The world's sixth largest skyscraper, China 117 Tower, was meant to be a symbol of prosperity like other famous skyscrapers in Dubai, Hong Kong, and New York. But unlike those other buildings, China's 117 Tower is unfinished and looks like a disaster. Many other nearby buildings are also unfinished, making the area look like a graveyard of a central business district. This problem is happening in China because local officials borrowed a lot of money to build infrastructure and boost the country's economy. The borrowing is so much that it has become a big problem. Officials set up companies to borrow money without following rules that limit their borrowing. As a result, the debt was not procured but was exploited, resulting in a much bigger figure than reported. Estimates suggest that debt is almost 50 trillion yuan, which is a lot of money. This borrowing was already a big problem, but then other things happened that made it even worse. China's strict zero-COVID policy hurt the economy because people couldn't spend money and factories had to shut down. Cities and provinces also had to spend a lot of money on testing and quarantine facilities. A property crisis also happened, which led to a 50% fall in land sales. Local governments rely on land sales to make money, so this was a big problem. Many local governments can't make payments on their debts, which is causing a lot of stress. Some officials are turning to unofficial channels of borrowing, which are very expensive and hard to keep track of. Some officials are even borrowing money from overseas sources, known as the hidden debt, which is risky because they have to pay high interest rates. As the economic toll of the COVID-19 pandemic continues to reverberate across China, local budgets are beginning to feel the strain. Reports have emerged of private bus companies suspending services due to an absence of government financial support, while cuts to healthcare benefits have sparked protests in cities such as Dalian and Wuhan. The situation has been compounded by local governments struggling to pay private companies for COVID-related expenses, including testing equipment. In addition, the failure to pay migrant workers has also led to further protests in some areas. As local budgets across China come under increasing pressure, the central government has been transferring funds to localities on an unprecedented scale. However, the sheer scale of debt accumulated over the past decade means that many projects may never seem profitable. In some cases, local governments are resorting to debt restructuring agreements with banks with lower interest rates, defer principal payments, and extend debt maturities. While proponents of these arrangements argue that they demonstrate a willingness to pay debts and acknowledge that it will take time, critics warn that such measures may be insufficient in the long run. As Rhodium's analysts ask, if these governments couldn't make funds when native GDP progress was excessive, usually over 7%, how will they handle within the forthcoming decade, with progress of maybe 3%? As China continues to grapple with the aftermath of the pandemic, the need for sustainable financial solutions has never been more pressing. This situation is causing a lot of problems in China's bond markets and could lead to chaos if more local governments default on their debt. It's a complicated issue, but it basically means that China has a lot of debt and not enough money to pay it off, which is causing problems for many people in the country. This all is happening because of the Chinese President Xi Jinping. The policy of China has always been to compete with the outer world on the cost of people's happiness. China runs on just one principle, which is making China the biggest superpower. Hence, it wants to dominate every sector that is significant for economic growth. In pursuance of this policy, The uncalculated investments were made across the country without any policy for long term. As the invested money was mainly procured from debts, the crisis is soon to become a havoc. Since the biggest investment was in the construction of skyscrapers, it is going to get worse. The uncalculated and unchecked loan policy of the local governments and Xi's silence shows that how his failed policies are more like a plan to demolish Chinese bricks one at a time.